Welcome back. A new investigative report by Open Secrets highlights once more how consultants greased the wheels of state capture. Big-name global consultancies have been implicated in helping South Africans to capture SOEs to serve corrupt ends. Bain not only did a bad job at SARS, but helped to gut the tax agency of efficiency and skills. McKinsey has apologized for shoddy work and dodgy dealings at Eskom and Transnet. For more, we're joined by Open Secrets Investigator Luvano Ntuli. Ms. Ntuli, thank you for being with us. You do point out the stark reality of it now. This history means that we have blackouts now, trains are not working now. It is so complex and it happened over a long time, but tell us how the likes of Bain and McKinsey were involved.
Thanks for having me. So I think one of the fundamental questions that we're dealing with in our report is how management consultants, because of the name and the power that they yield, are able to enter into contracts with large SOEs like Transnet, Eskom, and we also look further abroad to Angola and Saudi Arabia, and how these management consultants are able to, over a course of a few years, completely derail and loot these SOEs. And so one of the findings of our report is just how big and how massive McKinsey, Bain, and Boston Consulting Group have been in the erosion of SOEs across the globe.
And if there's a common pattern, it's not a mistake. It means they understand what they're doing, and these are meant to be highly intelligent people anyway. So they understand what they're doing and what the end result could be.
100%. And I think one of the fundamental problems is that and a great quote is that they accept no credit and they take no blame. Consulting firms are able to operate without oversight because they don't have a regulatory body. There are very few laws to govern how they should be acting within these spaces. And so what we end up seeing is that regardless of the consequences, and they do know the consequences. I mean, like you've said, McKinsey apologized and even paid back a large portion of the money that they'd taken. But regardless, they are aware of the consequences of their actions, and they still continue to act the way that they do. And so you have the findings of like the Zondo Commission, for instance, which find that consulting firms' work is actually redundant in these SOEs, but we still rely heavily on them. So I think that was one of the interesting things in our report, was to find that these consulting firms don't need to hold the power that they do. They don't need to operate within the realm and hold as much weight as they do. But because of the nature of their work and how secretive and obscure it is, they're able to come into SOEs and operate without zero to no regulation.
Yeah. I've looked at Bain, and the modus operandi was to deny a lot of what came out at two commissions of inquiry, to issue a pseudo-apology and give some money back. But partners that were involved were paid off. At least one senior member of that organization is still with Bain, but hasn't told the truth about what actually happened at SARS, for example. On the account of Athol Williams, the truth was actively buried. So then, I mean, Bain did lose a little bit of government work. There were some consequences, but how do you really hold them to account?
I think that's a great point. I mean, the government banning Bain from any contracts for the next 10 years is a great step of what accountability could look like. And I think once we kind of implement firmer and stricter regulations and an actual oversight body to regulate consulting firm, then we can actually start to see what accountability looks like. Because at the moment, what it has looked like is just paying off a fine, but never fully declaring what the truth of what has happened has been. And so I think there are great steps being taken. And I think even with the NPA taking up a criminal charge against McKinsey for its work at Transnet, I think, for instance, is also another great example. But I think on an international level, there also needs to be much stricter regulations around the role that corporates play in the violation of human rights and in state capture and corruption.
So very quickly, so you mean regulations may be similar to what companies that are listed have to adhere to, where they have to be transparent about what they're doing? Just how could it, what does regulation look like?
So, for instance, what we would need to have is an actual regulatory body to which consultants report to, and also there needs to be more stringent laws and regulations. And as you've said, there needs to be some kind of body or clauses or a code of ethics and conduct that consulting firms are tied to more stringently, because at the moment that doesn't exist.
All right, thank you very much. Investigator from Open Secrets, Luvano Ntuli.